In the history of crime, few stories are as shocking as this one. A trusted doctor, respected by his town, secretly became the most deadly serial killer of all time in a quiet little town in England called Hyde. People lived simple lives. Among them was a doctor named Harold Shipman. He was well known in the town and highly respected. People trusted him with their health, their secrets, and even their lives. To his patients, he was not just a doctor, he was like a family member. Shipman often smiled, listened patiently, and gave comfort to the elderly. He was always ready to visit them at home, share kind words, and make them feel cared for. Because of this, the townspeople thought he was the perfect doctor. But behind that friendly face, Shipman was hiding a terrifying truth. He was killing his own patients. For more than 23 years, Shipman carried out one of the worst killing sprees in history. He murdered over 218 people, and some believe the real number may have been more than 250. His method was simple but deadly. He gave his patients an overdose of strong medicines like morphine and diamorphine. Because most of his victims were elderly, their sudden deaths did not look suspicious. People thought old age or illness had finally caught up with them. The shocking part is that no one suspected him for decades. He continued to work, smile, and live among the same people he was secretly murdering. Shipman had a clever way of choosing his victims. He often targeted elderly people who lived alone. These patients had fewer family visits, which meant their deaths would not raise many questions. To gain trust, Shipman would spend extra time with them. He would sit in their homes, listen to their life stories, and make them feel less lonely. Many patients trusted him so much that they gave him their house keys. He became a part of their daily lives. Everyone in Hyde believed he was the doctor who truly cared for old people. In reality, he was gathering information about them, when they were alone, what property they owned, and whether anyone would notice if they suddenly died. When one of his patients died, Shipman used his position as a doctor to cover it up. He signed their death certificates himself, often writing old age or heart attack as the cause of death. He also advised families to go for cremation instead of burial. Cremation destroyed all evidence of drugs inside the body. Families trusted his advice, and many of his crimes went completely unnoticed. Long before he moved to Hyde, Shipman already had problems. In the 1970s, when he worked at another hospital, he became addicted to a powerful drug called pethidine, which is like morphine. To feed his addiction, he wrote false prescriptions and gave patients the drug even when they didn't need it. His behavior was discovered, and he was forced to leave his job. He even went to a rehabilitation center to deal with his addiction. But despite these serious mistakes, Shipman managed to keep his medical license. He moved to new towns and continued working as a doctor. Nobody realized that this addiction and his strange behavior were only the beginning of something far more dangerous. In 1993, Shipman opened his very own medical clinic in Hyde. With his own clinic, he had more freedom than ever before. His reputation grew quickly, and people thought of him as one of the best doctors in the area. But behind closed doors, the number of deaths in his care increased dramatically. Elderly patients continued to trust him, and families felt safe leaving their loved ones in his hands. Shipman used this trust to cover his crimes. By the mid-1990s, he was killing more frequently. Still, nobody suspected him because all his victims were old and the deaths looked natural. In 1998, another doctor named Linda Reynolds began to notice something unusual. She worked in a clinic near Shipman's and compared the death rates. Her clinic was 3 times larger, yet it had fewer patient deaths than Shipman's small clinic. She also noticed that many of his patients were elderly women who died sitting upright in their chairs, wearing neat clothes, as if death had come suddenly and unnaturally. Linda reported her concerns to the police. However, when investigators looked into Shipman's records, they didn't find enough evidence. Within a month, the investigation was closed, and Shipman was free to continue to. Shipman's final victim was Kathleen Grundy, an 81-year-old former mayor of Hyde. She was respected, healthy for her age, and not expected to die so suddenly. But in June 1998, she was found dead at home. Shipman signed her death certificate himself, claiming she died of old age. But her daughter, Angela Woodruff, who was a lawyer, found something strange. A will had appeared, leaving everything to Shipman. The will looked suspicious. It only mentioned one of Kathleen's two houses, something her real daughter would never forget. Angela immediately knew something was wrong and went to the police. Police exhumed Kathleen Grundy's body and tested it. They found large amounts of morphine, proving she was poisoned. Shipman tried to cover his tracks by adding fake notes into her medical record, saying she was addicted to drugs. But the computer saved the last edit date automatically, and it showed he had added the notes after her death. Even worse, the fake will was typed on a typewriter from Shipman's own home. Investigators matched the broken letters on the typewriter to the will. The evidence was clear. The respected doctor was a serial killer. On September 7th, 1998, Harold Shipman was finally arrested. Over time, investigators uncovered his long history of murders. The official number confirmed was 218 victims, but the true count may have been more than 250, making him one of the deadliest serial killers in history. In 2000, Shipman was found guilty of 15 murders and sentenced to life in prison without parole. But in 2004, he hanged himself in his prison cell using bedsheets. Even today, experts still debate why Shipman killed so many people. Some say it was for money, since he sometimes forged wills. Others believe it was psychological, linked to his own mother's death when she was given morphine for cancer pain. Whatever the reason, Harold Shipman is remembered as the doctor who betrayed trust, a man who turned his duty to save lives into a horrifying mission to take them. For years, this method worked perfectly. His victims were cremated, the records looked normal, and no one dared to question a respected town doctor. The case of Harold Shipman is now written in history as one of the most horrifying betrayals by a doctor. For more than 2 decades, he lived among people who trusted him, cared for him, and believed he was their healer. Yet behind that mask of kindness, he quietly carried out one of the deadliest killing sprees the world has ever known. His story reminds us that history is not only made by heroes. Sometimes it is shaped by monsters hiding in plain sight. What do you think drove him to kill so many innocent people? Was it greed, addiction, or something far darker inside his mind? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to explore more mysteries, dark histories, and untold stories from the past, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us again for the next journey into history's shadows.